So in the last session, we discussed about the instances, what we use as a part of implementation. By default, one is test instance, the other one is production instance. Test instance for a testing purpose.
Really dangerous, brother. Why don't you understand?
Please go on mute.
Sorry.
Please go on mute. Thank you. The test instance for the purpose of testing. So where the functional consultant can do the setups, they can test the business scenarios, and production instance can be used by client. The client team can use the instance to record their day-to-day business transactions once implementation is done. What about development instance? It can be used by technical consultants to do any sort of customizations. In some implementations, you may not have development instance. The customizations and the customization related testing also can be done by test instance itself. By default, test instance for functional consultants, development instance for technical consultants, this instance ultimately for the client. And it depends on the implementation. You may have these two separately, or else you can have only one. The technical and functional people can use the same instance to set up or to create some customizations and to test the same. If everything is working fine, everything we move from our test instance to production. If you are using development instance, from development to production. This is all about landscape of the instances we discussed in the last session. Also, we discussed about user part. So in the first instance, what are the user we create that we call as implementation user? We created a user called as ERPTREE, and we assigned application implementation consultant and IT security manager roles. With these three roles, you can work as a consultant. You will have a full privileges. Now, in today's session, we are going to focus on FSM, Functional Setup Manager. So FSM stands for Functional Setup Manager. So what we can do within the FSM? We discussed the very first step is creating implementation user the moment you get access to the instance. The second step is you have to enable offerings and options in the fresh instance. What does it mean by offerings and options? Offerings are nothing but product families. Whatever we discussed, financials, HCM, SCM, PRC, procurement, PPM, CRM. So earlier we discussed these as product families. These all we discussed as a different product families. The same product families as per FSM, we can call as offerings in the environment. Within the instance, all these product families you can call as offerings within FSM. As per functional setup manager, all these product families we call as a offerings. In each offering, you can have a specific application. If you take an example of financials, within the financials, you have applications like GL, APR, CM, FA, different applications we have. All these applications, yes, these are the applications, or you can call as a module. You can use any term. You can call as application. This is a functional term. The technical term is module. Both are same. You can call with any name, GL application or GL module. As per FSM, these applications are modules we call as options. Okay, we call as a options. These are the different options. These are the different offerings. So we are taking the case as within the financials offering what options we have. In the same way, in each offering, we can have set of options. So when we are going to implement Fusion applications for our client, the first task is you have to create your own user and assign these two key roles. As a second step, you have to enable offerings and options for your client. Say your client is going to implement financials, you have to enable it. Your client is going to use SCM, enable it. Now, within the instance, you have to enable these financials and SCM. And within that offering, okay, these two are offerings. Finance and SCM, these two are offering. These two you have to enable as offering. Within the finance and SCM, exactly which applications you are going to implement, those you have to enable within those offerings as options. Product family is offering, application we call as option as per FSM. So what are the applications you are going to implement for your client? Or else you can say what applications are in the scope of implementation. Those offerings and options we have to enable. That is the second task. The third task is you can create implementation project. You can create implementation project. Without creating implementation project, yes, you can perform the setups. But if you create implementation project, there are certain benefits. We will see when we start working on that implementation project, when we just go through relevant information, we'll understand all those points. Here, the point what you have to take is, you have to create implementation project. After creating implementation project, you can start doing the setups. Doing setups, you can take as a fourth step. So first step is create implementation user. Second step, enable offerings and options. Then create implementation project. And within the implementation project, you have to select what are the offerings and options you are going to implement. You are going to implement finance and SCM. During this implementation project, you have to include, or say you have to select offerings and options into your project. Then system create the task list. This all you can consider as a one step. The one step process, you can complete all this. So how system will create the task list and all we will discuss and we'll see in the system. And finally, you can start working on the system configuration. So why we have to create implementation project? Very simple reason is to perform the setups. With the help of implementation project, the setup process you can simplify and you can do the setups and you can manage the setups. Can we perform the setups in the system without implementation project? Yes, we can perform. Without creating implementation project, we can do the setups, but if you create implementation project, there are certain benefits. So this is what we have to understand. First, we'll go on to enable the offerings and options. We'll see how to enable the offerings and options in the fresh instance when we work for any client. Then we will talk about implementation project once again, and we will create implementation project within the instance. So before we proceed, any questions here, please? And another important point is when you say implementation project, it is not real implementation project what we do for the clients. When you talk about implementation project, various activities are involved. We take the requirement, we prepare documentation, we do the testing, we conduct different sessions and user training. Many activities are part of it. But when we talk about this implementation project, it refers only setups in the system. So instead of calling it as implementation project, you can call it as setup project also. But Oracle given the name in the instance as implementation project, we go with the same name. But try to understand the implementation project means the setups what you are going to do. The setups what we are going to do that we call as implementation project. Through implementation project concept, you can perform the setups. This is all about implementation project. So any questions here, please? Any questions from anyone to understand these few points? We'll see more detail level in the system. So before we jump into the system, any questions from anyone, please? No questions.
Hey, Lakshman, only one question.
Please.
You mentioned that there are some special benefits of doing the setups via implementation project compared to the manual way of doing ourselves, going and doing in the individual bits and pieces places. Can you specify any special benefits by following the implementation
I'll
project?
explain. Give me some time. Okay. Now just I'm trying to introduce. If I explain benefits, you may catch, few other guys cannot catch.
All right, got it. Got
Yeah.
it. No problem. I just want to understand. Cool.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Definitely, I'll explain. I'll just cover those points. Once I create implementation project, I'll explain those. And I'll
Absolutely, no problem. Thank you.
Yeah, I'll show without implementation. Once implementation project is created, I'll be able to show where you can do the setups. Without implementation project, how to do it. With implementation project, how to do. If you do the setups through implementation project, what are the benefits? If you are doing from the different area of our instance, what are the disadvantages? These all I will talk. Yep.
All right, thank you.
Yeah, thanks. Fine. First, we'll go and see offerings and options. Why we have to enable these offerings and options? If you don't enable offerings and options, say you have a finance and SCM in the scope of implementation, you are working for your client, they are going to implement Fusion Financials and Fusion SCM. You are going to work for financials as a finance consultant. For SCM, there will be separate consultant. Now, first you have to enable the offerings and options. If you don't enable offerings and options, the finance and SCM will not be available when you create implementation project to select. If you are not able to select financials and SCM into your implementation project, you cannot do the setups for those two offerings. That is the reason you have to enable. You may not create implementation projects till you have to enable on the offerings and options, then only you can do the setups. It means whatever the applications you are going to implement, you have to do the setups to implement those applications. If you want to do the setups, first those need to be enabled in the instance. That's very important. If the offerings and options are not enabled, you cannot use those. This is what you have to understand. Let's see how to enable offerings and options. So let's go to the instance. So in the yesterday's session, we created a user called as ERPTREE. Connect to the instance with the same user. Now, what navigation you have to take if you want to enable offerings and options. So click on username. We are going to enable offerings and options. Click on username. Click on setup and maintenance. Once we click on setup and maintenance, it will take us to FSM page, functional setup manager page. Click on setup and maintenance. So this is the FSM page. In the last session, we discussed the same. If you don't create implementation project, you can do the setups from here itself. You can select financials. You can select general ledger application, and you can do the setups. This is how you can do the setups without creating the implementation project also. You may not create implementation project. If you want to implement any application, first we have to enable the offerings and options. How to enable offerings and options? Once you take the navigation to FSM, how we are taking navigation? By clicking on setup and maintenance task. Once you click on setup and maintenance, we are landing in this page. So in this page, go to actions. Here you can see actions drop down. Click on actions. So within this actions, one of the action is go to offerings. One of the option is go to offerings. Click on go to offerings. Here you can see all the offerings which are available in this instance from Oracle. Here is our financials offering. And here is the procurement offering. And let's check other offerings, SCM. In the list of these offerings, you don't see something as SCM. The reason Oracle not released the SCM solution in one go. At a time, they didn't release. They released one by one. First, they released purchasing application solution as a part of procurement. Later, they released order management solution as a part of procurement. Purchasing application they released as a part of, and they released order management application separately. And they released product management solution. Within that, we have your inventory. So that's how they released as a separate releases. That is the reason they did not combine the different applications into offering called as SCM, supply chain management. And later they released the manufacturing applications also, manufacturing and the supply chain material management. So that is separate offering they released. And what about PRC, procurement? Yes, we have seen that this is a PRC, procurement offering. And what about PPM? When you talk about PPM, they are giving us two sub offerings. Those are project execution management, project financials management. Within the project financial management, you deal with project related cost and you maintain the contracts. You do the billing to your customers for whom you are doing the project. Here financials are involved, which are related to project. It's a part of PPM. And project execution management also part of PPM, where you can manage your project scheduling and resource management, task management, and many other activities. So if you combine this project execution management and project financial management, then you can call it as PPM, project portfolio management. And what about HCM? Where is HCM offering? HCM also they are not giving directly as HCM. So here they are giving two sub offerings. One is workforce development and workforce deployment. If you combine these two, that is called as HCM. Okay, that is called as HCM. Okay, if you combine this sales, services, this all you can call it as CRM. So that's how Oracle is providing different offerings as a like, even see that one offering you may see as a different offerings as we seen just now as a sub offering, or else the one offering you can see as a one offering like finance. Finance is one offering. They are not splitting and they are not giving. The reason is Oracle introduced financials at a time, all the applications. And procurement also they introduced at a time, but rest whatever they introduced as a different phases. So with the different time frames they introduced, that is the reason they kept those as a separate. Even those are not offerings, they are showing as offerings only. Reality, order management is one of the application that should be in the list of options, but they are giving as a separate offering. So that can be used by some third-party integrations, etc. There are many things in that. That is the reason they released it separately and it is called as offering. But when you understand as offerings, you have to understand by following this naming convention. Financials is there as a financials, procurement is there as a procurement. When you say HCM, so you have to combine those two sub offerings, that will become HCM. SCM, you have to combine purchasing from the procurement, order management, and product management. From product management, inventory management. This all you have to combine, then it will become SCM. And PPM already we have seen in the same way, CRM. So these all are different offerings. What we have to understand, how those are there in the instance, this is how those are here. And inside of the offerings, you can have options. Anyway, we'll go and see that. I'm going to select financials. Don't click on the name, click on this icon, financials icon, just click on it. Once you click on this financials icon, the right side, you can see the description, what we have inside of these financials. So what we have inside of these financials, you can read here. So this financials offering includes the flows like assets. Assets means fixed assets application. And ledgers. Ledgers nothing but general ledger application. Application name is general ledger. Within the general ledger, you can have a ledgers to maintain the data to prepare the reports. And cash cycle, nothing but cash management application. Invoices and payments. It refers payables application and account receivables application and collections. There is separate application called as advanced collections and setup of subledger accounting. This is not an application. This is a one functionality feature. We are going to work on it. And the tax also we are going to work tax configuration. And within this, you don't see fusion expense, but fusion expense also part of this only. They are not displaying. Okay. So this is what we have to understand. So this instance we are using for practice. That is the reason you see the status of this offering is enabled. But in case of fresh instance, you see the status as not enabled. Okay, you see the status as not enabled. What we have to do is we have to enable it. How to enable this? Okay, how to enable? It's very simple. In the fresh instance, you can go to financials, you click on financials. The status you can see as a not enabled. When you see the status as not enabled, click on opt-in features. Just click on opt-in features. When you click on opt-in features, it will take us to the page where you can enable offerings and options which you are going to implement for your client. Or else you can say for which offerings and options your client has taken subscription. For all those offerings and options, you have to complete this step. You see here, offering is financials. You have to enable the financials. By default, you could see as a disabled. Okay, how to enable it? So when you enable financials, you get general ledger application by default. There is no option for us to enable or disable. By default, there is a tick mark. If you are going to implement financials, without general ledger, it is not possible. So that is the reason you get general ledger whenever you are going to implement financials as a base application. Rest you can choose. If you are going to implement payables, you have to enable this supplier invoice and processing. Okay, supplier invoice processing. This you have to enable. If you are going to implement supplier invoice processing consists of these sub processes. One is suppliers. Yes, the payables we read suppliers. Here again, payables means invoice process. Payments means payment process. Cash management. In the payables, if you want to make the payment, we need bank accounts. Bank accounts are part of cash management. That is the reason these all are connected with the payables application. Supplier invoice processing is nothing but payables. And expense is a separate application. If you are going to implement fusion expenses to record employee expense reports, you can enable it. Or else, if you are not going to implement, disable it. It's all about you have to choose. Whatever you choose, you can select into your project. Whatever you enable, you will be able to implement for your client. So that's how it works. So what you are going to implement, just enable. What you are not going to implement, don't enable. Keep them as this as a disabled mode. So that's how those would be available when it comes to system configuration. When we are going to do the setups, so accordingly system will display. Now I disable expense. If I want to implement expense, I cannot do expense related configuration. If I enable, yes, at any point of time, you can come back to this page and you can enable or disable. That is possible. If you don't want to implement payables, disable payables. So when you create implementation project, if you select these financials, system will select whatever enabled. It won't display everything in your implementation project. Whatever enabled, those only system will select, those only you can implement. So that's how it works. Okay. So what we have to do in the fresh instance, we have to enable the offerings and options. So you can enable the financials. Within the financial, if you are implementing payables, you can enable.
Mounika.
Please go on mute. Please request, please make a note. Yeah. So payables means supplier invoice processing. Expense, fusion expense. If you are going to implement fixed assets, you enable it or disable it if you are not implementing. Customer invoice processing is nothing but receivables application. You scroll a little down, you can see that relevant information. Okay, customer invoice processing includes receivables. Along with that, cash management. In the receivables application, we have to record the receipts. If you want to record the receipts, customer payments, we need bank accounts. Bank accounts are part of cash management. So you get cash management along with the receivables. Customer invoice processing is nothing but accounts receivable. Item collections and all, you can manage all these things. You can access the inventory items and you can perform the collection activities. If you don't want to implement collections application, separate application, you can disable. As a part of receivables, there will be collection activities, certain basic functionality, and there is separate application also called as advanced collections. If you are implementing, you can enable it. The same way, the revenue management, intercompany, this is separate functionality. So whatever you are going to implement, you can enable it. And business analytics. Okay, business intelligence analytics. If you want to generate some analytics based on the data what you are generating by recording the transactions across these applications, you can enable. Reality, what we do is when you do the implementation, so that may be in the scope, may not be in the scope, we enable all. Okay, so just we enable as a part of enabling offerings and options. If client is going to use financials, you enable all. Client may not use fixed assets, no worries. If client is not going to use fixed assets, you are not going to do the setups, you are not going to implement it, but it can be part of your offering. That is okay. So financials we are calling as offering is customer invoice processing, fixed assets, expense, supplier invoice processing. These all we are calling as options. These all we are calling as options. So this is how you have to enable required offerings, and within the offering, what are the options client required, those you can enable. Sometimes say a client is going to use only GL and AP applications. They are not going to use receivables, cash management and fixed assets. No worries. You can enable it. You can enable it. There is no challenge. You are not going to implement. Those would be available for implementation. Since you don't have a subscription from Oracle, you are not going to implement. By enabling here, there is no harm. It won't create any issues. So reality, what we do is when we do the implementation, the first instance, we go to financials, we enable inside of the financials, whatever the options or sub options are available, everything we enable. So apart from that, if you look at the financials or different applications, we have a futures. Those you no need to set anything. By default, Oracle set whatever really required. Let's click on it. Okay. So what you can do with these futures? So when you talk about financials, so with respect to financials, what are the different futures are available very high level? Like it's a, say for example, you are going to implement applications called as GRC, governance, risk and complaint. So implemented financials, along with the financials, you want to implement GRC applications, governance, risk and complaints applications. If you want to implement those applications, if you are going to implement as an add-on, you can enable it, otherwise not required. That's how everything. Okay. By default, you no need to go and enable anything. So whatever required, Oracle is enabling, depending on the country or any specifications you have. If something is applicable here, you can come back to this page and you can enable. Otherwise, you no need to enter into this page. Everything, all the features which are related to finance, or those are part of within the finance across the different applications which are very relevant to so and so process. So the features and all, you no need to go and edit, you no need to do anything. Just you keep that as this they are giving. If anything is missing, anything need to be enabled, you have to enable. But by default, you get everything in the financials what belongs to each and every application. So that's what you have
So-
to understand about enabling offerings and options. Yes, please.
So I have a question, like when they buy the product, they have to buy entire financials? Is it not given?
Required. It's not like buying, they take subscription. Okay.
Oh,
They
subscription.
take the subscription. Even they take the subscription for only 2 applications. You get everything. Okay. In
Mhm.
instance, you can see everything. Say, for example, take this instance. This instance belongs to one client. They taken the subscription for GL, AP, and AR. So they did not take subscription for cash management and fixed assets. Still, you can see those, but you should not implement those and you should not use it. If you use, you will have a penalty.
Okay.
Oracle will allow. Your client took the subscription for GL, APR, general ledger, accounts payables, account receivables. But you are going to enable cash management and fixed assets applications also here. You can enable, no issues, but don't use those.
Okay.
For enabling, okay. If you enable, those would be available to implement, but you don't have subscription. Okay, you should not use them. Say you implement it, no worries, but don't use it.
Oh, okay. Okay.
If you are not using, why to implement?
So that means the implementer has to have knowledge of what is being purchased. I mean, subscription.
Definitely. When you are part of implementation team, in the discussions, this all will come out. See, if you are working for a company called as Wipro, okay, so the client may be Airtel. Yeah, Airtel is using Oracle applications for their business operations.
Mhm.
So you are working for Wipro client is Airtel. Now, when you go to Airtel implementation, you will be informed what applications Wipro is going to implement for Airtel. There'll be documentation. The pre-sales team, sales teams, they'll create the document. It's all about what is the scope of the modules we are going to implement.
Okay.
And you will get to know when you are part of the team, you will have a discussions. Okay, you'll have a discussion with the client, you will have a discussion with your team, and from your organization side, you will come to know.
Got it.
Accordingly, we have to work. And
Got it, sir.
just click on done. And if you want to enable any other offerings, follow the same process. Say you want to enable procurement. Of course, you may not implement procurement. Since you took the responsibility of enabling, you can enable it, nothing wrong. So say as a part of your current implementation, your client is going to use procurement applications also. Click on procurement icon and click on opt-in features. Just click on opt-in features. And when you click on opt-in features, it will open what are the different applications are available as a part of procurement, for which applications your client has a subscription. Accordingly, you can enable. So that is the process we have to follow. In this instance, you can see procurement also already enabled. So how to enable? If it is not enabled, you can enable first procurement. And within the procurement, when you enable the procurement, you notice here by default, okay, by default, the suppliers and items are getting defaulted. Because within the procurement, if you want to purchase something, so item functionality should be available and the supplier functionality also should be available. It is getting defaulted. So within the procurement, the primary application is purchasing. So you have to enable purchasing. And I think in the last session, somebody asked question. So I-procurement. The I-procurement in the Fusion we call as self-service procurement. This is what. If you want to implement I-procurement for your client, this is what you have to enable. And when we are going to deal with the purchasing, you will have a receiving part by default. You are purchasing something means you have to receive that material into your warehouse. That by default you will get. Some clients, they want to use payables along with the procurement. They can include payables as a part of procurement itself. Means procurement plus payables also. They can get it. The same way, the other applications like supplier portal, iSupplier application, that is separate application, sourcing application. procurement contracts. These are the different applications which are part of procurement solution. What are the key applications within the procurement? Purchasing, self-service procurement, which is equal to iProcurement, and supplier portal, sourcing, procurement contracts. These you can make a note, but anyway, we are not going to deal with this. This is not our area, but we will work on the process flows. There we touch base inventory and purchasing application. Rest of applications we don't need to touch. We can understand the end-to-end process with those applications. So just make a note, these are the key application. Don't get confused with the terms like procurement and purchasing. So purchasing is the application which you can use for raising the requisitions and creating the purchase orders. And procurement is the one along with the purchasing. There are many other procurement activities dealing with your suppliers. Okay, online, dealing with your suppliers for your procurement requirements. Okay, just kind of how you purchase online. Like you have a Amazon, online you purchase. For that, you can use self-service procurement portals, okay, application capabilities, and to establish online communication with the suppliers, you can use supplier portal that you can call as iSupplier also. Sourcing, so to find out your potential suppliers, you can use a sourcing application. And if you want to have a different contracting rules and conditions when we deal with when you do the procurement, those all for procurement contracts you can create in this application. So this is how we have. So, but we are not going to, it's not related to us. Who is the procurement consultant? They can take care of all this, but just for our information purpose, we are going through this. So this is how you have a different offerings. Inside of the offering, we have a different options. Accordingly, you can enable and you can use those. Along with this, if you select these financials, don't click on the name. It will take to different page. Click on icon. Click on financials icon. So here you can see related documents, but those are not so great and useful for us now, but just for information. When you are practicing, you can open and you can see those documents, but may not be now, after some time. Once you create the project, once we start doing the setups, you may open this document, okay, associated features, setup task list and task documents. You can sense something, but now no use, no need to touch those. And these are not at all useful for us. Okay, these two documents you can have a look, but think you are not going to learn anything from that. You are going to learn from the classes. It is very big documents. You cannot grab anything from that. Just for information, you can go through. So if you want to see those documents, the same documents, if you talk about associated features, what are the detailed features are available within the financials across all these applications? If you want to understand, there is a documentation which is available in these different formats. If you click on PDF, it will be downloaded, HTML, Excel. The respective document can be downloaded in these formats. You download and you can view. Even if you are not going to see that, there is no issue. Nothing you are going to learn from that, just for information. But anyway, that you come to know in our classes. So that is the one point. The other point is setup task list and tasks. So to implement financials, to implement entire financials, what setups need to be performed in the system, the list of setups you can see by downloading those relevant documents. You may try with this, but what I could say is not required. You can see in our classes, even if you download, it's a big mess. By following that, nothing you can do. So that's all about the relevant documents. You may have you may go through it, but not now. Once you start doing the setups, you download the document, you can go through. It makes some sense. We can understand at least something. But now you cannot understand anything from that. Don't touch that, but make a note. After doing few setups in the system, you can review the document. You can just understand how they given, why they given, how it is. That's it. So this is what we have to understand here. And another point is So what are the new features Oracle they are introducing? What Oracle is doing is in every quarter, they're applying some patches to the instance. The patch can fix the issues. The patch can add some new functionalities to existing product. Those features you can see by clicking on the new features. But before you go and understand about new feature, you have to understand what release of the instance we are using. How to find the instance what we are using belongs to which release. In case of EBS, we call as versions. In EBS, we call as versions. In Fusion, we call as releases. The Fusion EBS, when you talk about EBS, okay, you may not be from EBS background, but you make a note of these points. So EBS. EBS means e-business suite. E-business suite. E stands for electronic business suite. So in EBS, we have a different releases, versions. 11i version. 11i. 11 is the version, I is internet. Through internet, you can connect and you can use that application. That's how they release that product. And prior to that, there are some lower versions also. Now those are no more. After EBS 11i, Oracle released EBS R12. Okay, R12, release 12. Okay, release 12. After EBS, now the Fusion, they released version as 11. Fusion 11. Okay, or that you can call as Fusion 11G also. 11G is the database version also, but for Fusion application version is 11G. But reality, when it comes to usage and when we document or when you discuss, we never refer Fusion with 11G. Always we refer with releases. Within the Fusion, they have a releases. They have a releases from 1, the release 1, release 2, release 3, 4, 5. Almost they didn't release for the customers. They release internally to develop that product and to find out the bugs, to fix those. Mostly clients started using this Fusion from release 7. There are few clients just they tried with release 6 also, but release 7. So release 7, after release 7, they released release 8, you know, the same sequence. Release 9, release 10, release 11, release 12. Now we are standing at release 30. So that is the latest in the Fusion, release 30. Again, what they are doing is initially they were keep upgrading the release. This also like 7, 8, 9, 10. They are keep changing that release. They are keep increasing that release series. Later, I think from 2018, they stopped with this release upgrading those numbers. After 7, 8, after 8, 9, after 9, 10. Why they are upgrading? Why they are introducing that releases? They are doing some changes, they are upgrading. In 2018, almost Fusion Finance or most of the applications are very much stabilized. That is the reason Oracle stopped upgrading, releasing 14th or 15th, release 14th or release 15th. They stopped with release 13 because product upgraded, product is stabilized. So that is the reason they stopped. After release 13, once after releasing this 13, they started updating anything with the patches only. So from after release 13 you can say latest. Release 13, every quarter they are applying the patches. In every quarter, every 3 months, they apply some patches. If any changes like they did for the Fusion product, they apply the patches that would be applicable for our instance also. So there may be some new functionality Oracle is introducing. They apply the patches that would be applicable for our instance. So that is how this release 13 they are managing. How to find, where to find, which release of the instance we are using. We'll go and see that. If you want to understand which release of instance you are using, you have to click on username. And here you can see one task called as about this application. About this application. Just click on about this application. It talks about this application. Okay, here what you can see, Oracle Fusion Cloud Applications and 23A 11.13.23.01.0. What is the meaning of this? First, we'll see what is the meaning of this. Then we'll see what is the 23A. So, as we discussed, version for Fusion is 11G. That is, this is 11. It refers 11. When they started product, this is 11. Now also 11. Everywhere it would be 11. It's constant. 11. You no need to refer that 11 at all. That is a version. Version is fixed. Within the version they made it as a constant. 11 means it's a fusion. Within that, they keep coming up with the different releases. We discussed the latest one is 13. This is the 13. And other point we discussed, after release 13, they are not coming up with any release 14 or 15. They are standing with 13 only. What are the changes they are doing? They are doing the changes with the patches. How they are applying the patches? Every quarter. Every quarter they are applying the patch. Now this instance, what is the recent patch applied on this instance? You can understand here. Here is the clue. When the latest patch they applied. The latest patch they applied is 23. 23 means year suffix. In 2023 year means current year. 01 means month. Means Jan. In Jan 2023, they applied one patch on this instance. Now we are in the second quarter. They will apply the one more patch for second quarter patch very soon, if it is applicable. So that is the meaning of it. And here there is no date they are representing. This is a year, this is a month. This they can represent with the date, but they are not giving that any date on which date they did the patch application. Really not required. And what is 23A? 23A, they are referring with this. Year and quarter. So Jan, they applied. Say tomorrow, if you see here, 23/5. 5 means May month. It means they applied the patch in the May month. 23/5 means year 2023. 5 means May. When you see here 5 or 4 means second quarter, here it would be 23B. If they apply third patch in this year, okay, so April, May, June, say they may apply in the July or August. Say they applied patch on August on this instance going forward. Here it would be 8. Here it would be changed to 8 means it falls under which quarter? Third quarter. It would be C. And if they apply the patch in the October or November or December month, the same they represent. If it is in the November, they will put 11 here. So that is belongs to which quarter? Fourth quarter. Fourth quarter means here they will give D. This is what you have to understand. Any instance you can open and quickly you can check. So which release is that? The release is represented here. Release 13. This is always constant. No changes you can see anytime. So this is the release. In that release 13, when the latest patch is applied. Here you can see. Or instead of seeing this, if you don't want to worry about on which in which month they applied the patch, simply you can see which quarter patch is applied. First quarter means A, B, C, D. 23A, 23B, 23C, and 23D. That's how you can see. So now in the first quarter they applied the patch. In this quarter they have to apply the patch. So this is how you can find the instance is how latest it is. Don't worry if you see some instance which says release 13, and if it is showing here 22 only, no worries. There are no huge changes occurred in the finance. Almost it is stabilized. Even if you have access to some instance which talks about release 13 and patch is applied in the 2022, no worries. It works, it supports in all the ways. So this is what you have to understand about the instance release. Any questions on this, please?
One question. Yeah, are these patches like free of cost for persons who have taken subscription for 13, or does they cost something every time?
Doesn't cost anything. Okay, these instances are managed by Oracle with quarterly intervals. They apply those. Doesn't
And
cost.
are they mandatory that they have to take the patch, like apply the patch?
Yeah, they apply as a mandatory because
Okay.
it's not going to impact anything what you are doing. So that they'll take care.
Okay.
Yeah.
One more question. 13 is for the release. So what is 11 for? Like
Sorry?
after 23. 13 is for the release, right?
13 is release. Yes.
So what is 11 for?
11 I explained, right? Version. For Fusion applications version, they given as 11G.
Okay, 11th version, 11G version, 13th release, and then
Release.
year, and then the month.
Month.
Okay, got it. Got it.
Yeah. But we never refer with 11. Just they are giving, let it be. But we never take into consideration for any purpose. Always we talk about release only.
But when will 11 change? When database change?
No. They're not pointing to database. The Fusion applications version they are giving as 11. If it is a Fusion, it is 11 only.
Okay.
It will not be changed. That's what we have to understand.
So how do we know that is it in an on-premise or a cloud? If the database compatibility to mentioned, right?
Can you come again?
How
Initially,
do
your
we know
voice
that?
is very low.
How do we know that is the application is in a cloud application or an on-premise application?
Okay, cloud or on-premise application. How you can say, like,
Yeah.
it depends. Like when we are working on the instance, see, it could be on-premise or cloud. You will access through your URL. For this instance, this is the URL. Whatever I am selecting, that is the URL.
Yeah.
Okay, so URL. So when you are in the project, by seeing the name, you don't understand.
Right.
By just when you are working, you can talk to the people, you will come to know.
Oh, okay. Not based on this database compatibility, right?
Not database. Again, if you go and check up to that level, you can understand. See, if it is
Okay.
on-premise, you can go and play with the database. If it is a cloud, you have a restrictions.
Yeah, right. Yes.
Say, for example, you are using the SaaS. You cannot create any tables, the database.
True. Yes.
You are using the PaaS. You can create the tables. You are using on-premise. You can do anything.
Okay.
So this information we have to
Thank you,
get.
sir.
Okay, we have to get. And other point, see here, they are mentioning as a cloud application. Okay. So see, based on this only, you have to understand. I don't say. So here also one clue you can find. But ideally, just it's not like we'll go and check. Generally, when we are part of implementation, it's a very basic information. We'll try to gather what instance it is. And Oracle is not encouraging on-premise instances at all. Only they are focusing on the cloud. Okay.
And when you apply the patch, are they supposed to test every time? Like,
No. See, those patches are different. Say you are facing some issue and they'll apply the patches. That's a different thing.
yes.
That's different. Say, for example, in payables, you are creating invoice. Your system is not allowing you. Okay. Then you contact Oracle, they'll be helping. That process is different. That comes under some support activity where initially we ask them to apply the patch and the test instance. We test if the patch is fixing the issue, then we'll ask the Oracle to apply the patch on the production.
Correct.
But these are very much validated patches. The Oracle is responsible for everything for these patches. These patches mostly doesn't disturb anything. It will help for performance, to improve the performance, or to add some value to the existing process, or to fix some bugs which are happening, which they experienced with the different clients. Those all they'll try to fix with these patches.
Okay, so for this, the client need not spend extra efforts in testing and all. It's
not
taken care.
required, not. It's a very regular interval patches. If that is true, every time, every quarter, they have to put the efforts, right?
Yeah, that's what I was asking. Yeah.
No.
Thank
These are not such kind of patches. These are very friendly patches, you can say.
Okay.
Fine, this is what you have to understand. Again, the patches what Oracle applied recently, the relevant features, if you want to understand, you can click on this. Click on new features. Okay. And here you can see in this 23A patch, also what features are available, what is not available, you can see. Maybe small, they may enable one checkbox, they may add one kind of field, or some small things only you can find, but not the very bigger things. You see in which release, say 23A, what is available across the applications. Okay, so you can see like this, it's item related and collections related, different areas. You can just go through and you can understand.
One more question. Let's say a new release is applied, so I can see some functions which enabled and non-enabled. So at our end, can we enable the new features or like it's
If required, it's not like, say, there is a huge functionality from Oracle, you take any client, even they don't use more than 50%. Whatever they require, we set up accordingly they use. Oracle, what they are giving by understanding global business requirements, so different industries. So whatever our client need, if that is not there, if Oracle is releasing now, then you can go on to enable and you can use it. You can set up. That's how it works. Okay. If they are releasing, if they are adding something, it's not mandatory for us to use, right?
Lakshman,
Yeah.
I have seen in one offerings intercompany. So intercompany
It's
is
not an
used for
offering. It's not an offering. It is a kind of functionality, one feature. That's it.
functionality.
See,
So is
within
that
the offerings, that's what they are giving offering and options. Along with that, they are giving some sub functionalities also.
okay? So that function is used for AGIS purpose, intercompany
Yes.
transactions.
Correct.
Okay.
Same. Yes.
Fine.
The budgeting also they are giving. Budgeting also they are giving as a separate sub function, a separate sub option. So if you are going to implement, you can enable.
Lakshman, one more question.
Yeah.
In the financials, when you was showing customer invoicing, under that items was there, and prior to that, you mentioned items will be part of product management. So how is it?
Correct. See, there will be integration, right? Say, for example, in receivables, you are going to create sales invoice. What item you are selling to the customer, you have to include in the receivables. You purchasing department purchases so item, but when you are going to make the payment to supplier, that should be in part of invoice, right? It should be linked with invoice.
Right.
So that purpose, the linking purpose, those are the points they mentioned. Yep. So system will allow us to access. It may allow you or it may allow system to access system in the process.
So to add a new item, we have to go to product management, but when we are creating invoices, then we can directly use it.
Those items you can access when you create the transactions. Yes. For that, we have to do the setups. Okay, which item should be available through which inventory, that we have to do the setup. We'll see in our classes. Yeah.
And what is this Fusion Accounting Hub? Is it linked to financials?
Yes, it is linked with the finance. That is separate offering. Say, for example, you are implementing financials. and many other applications. Client has some manufacturing applications or some industry specific application, X application, or say that is retail application. Client is into different businesses and one of the businesses is retail. So retail, they are using some system called as X system, a product called as X product, X system. The X system, what they do is they just pass the entries. Pass the entries means they'll record the activity. They don't create accounting. If they are creating accounting, okay, if they are creating accounting, this X system you can directly connect to our Fusion Finance, wherever it is required, the connection through integrations. The technical people can do the integration. Okay.
You mean FAH?
Not FH. I'm not talking. If FH, I'll talk about FH. I'm not talking about FH. I'll come to FH.
Oh, it's financials. Okay.
Yes. There is a system, client is using third-party system, X system,
Okay.
X application, or else you can say X application. Within that, they are recording the business transactions and they are creating accounting entries. They are doing some activity, they are creating accounting. Everything is going smooth. But client is using Oracle Fusion Financials, Oracle Fusion applications, and this is a third-party application. This is not from Oracle. Now, if you want to bring this accounting data into financials, what you have to do? You have to connect this X system to financials, right?
Yes.
Then within this, what are the transactions they are recording? The transaction related accounting information will come to finance and you can produce the reports.
Mm-hmm.
Now take the case. Client is using the X system. They are recording what are the activities they are doing. But activities, they are not creating accounting. If you are not aware of accounting, you will come to know in our classes when you start working. They are not creating accounting. Just they are recording activity. Now, this data you want to bring into finance. If you are bringing the data into finance, the data should be available with accounting.
Correct.
Use the reports. But here data is available. If you try to bring the data into financials, which doesn't have any accounting, the record itself will fail. Then what you do is you use FH.
For the accounting entries.
Yes. By using, you bring this activities into FH, you create accounting, then the data you send to finance. That's
some
it.
translation rules and all.
Correct. Translation or accounting conversion.
Conversion rules.
You create accounting for the activities where no accounting is in the other applications. And you send to finance, then it would be very small.
Got it. Very clear. Thank you.
So that is the purpose of FH. Fine.
Thank you, sir.
Yeah. Fine. So this is all about understanding releases. Okay. The releases and the patches.
One more question, Lakshman.
Please.
If we don't enable it, this accounting hub, and we only enable the financials, means payable.
No. See, forget about FH. FH not at all required for it.
Okay. That's what I was trying to ask.
Yeah.
How
See,
will accounting will do?
You are bringing the data from some third-party applications. Somewhere you are bringing some industry-specific applications. That industry-specific applications, you have that accounting information. Yes, directly you can connect with the help of technical team. The data will come to your finance, especially to GL you get mostly.
Okay.
For reporting purpose. You have some third-party application, there is no accounting. Then FH is required. They get a FH consultant for that.
Okay.
If you are a finance consultant, it is not mandatory. You have to do it. You are a finance consultant or not a FH consultant. So FH consultant will take care of it.
Yeah, got it.
Learn FH also, yes, you will be able to do it. Yeah, please. Any question? I think somebody was saying something. No? Okay, no. Fine. So that's all about what we have to understand about the releases and the quarterly patches Oracle applies. by looking at the instance, you can smell how latest an instance is that. Okay. So by clicking on this, you can understand. This is all about the releases. Okay, we have seen how to enable the offerings and options. That is the same process. In case of fresh instance, you can enable. Here also, if you want to enable, you can exercise. What you can do is, one time you go to this page, disable all and save it, again open. You can see here as a not enabled. Then you go and enable. That's how you can get experience. But that this is not a big thing to do in that way. Try to understand where to enable, how to enable. That's all. So that's all about enabling offerings and options. Once you enable offerings and options, this all would be available when you create implementation project. The purpose of implementation project is to do the setups. Only for the primary purpose is to do the setups. And there are a few other relevant points also we have to understand. Yes, we will discuss. Now the question is, if you are working for any client, how many implementation projects you have to create? One you can create, one is enough. If you are going to do the implementation, one project is enough. One implementation project is enough. You will be able to execute all the setups even for multiple countries. Say you are implementing for your client is operating the business in 10 countries. Yes, even client is operating the business in 10 countries, you will be able to complete all the setups from single implementation project. Or else if you want to create separate implementation project for every country, yes, do it, no worries. Ultimately the setups what we do, those will go and sit in the database. From front end, through which implementation project you are doing doesn't matter. You may create implementation project, you can do the setups, you can delete the implementation project, but your setups will remain as it is. Implementation project will give you the path to go to specific pages and to do the setups, not more than that. So when you say implementation project, this you don't match with the real-time implementation projects which we do for the client. Whenever we do the implementation for any client, one of the activity, I'm saying one of the activities doing the setups. To do those setups, we are creating this implementation project in the system, not more than that. So to do the setups in the system, we have to create implementation project. For each country, you can create the separate implementation project, or else for multiple countries, you can create single implementation project. From the same implementation project, you can do the setups. And if you want to create one project for multiple countries, sometimes you may get confused when you do the setups. If you create separate project for each and every country without any simple challenges, I could say, not a big challenges or small, without facing any issues, you will be able to complete the setups. The best thing what you can do is you can create separate implementation projects for each country so that when you do the setups, you can complete the setups very smoothly. If you are using single implementation for project for multiple countries, there are certain setups which will confuse you. If you are not observing, watching very, very carefully, you commit with mistakes. That chance is there. That is the reason generally you may create separate implementation projects for separate country, or else it is okay. Once you get experienced, okay, how to do the setups, yes, you can create one implementation project and you can do the implementation for multiple countries. That is also quite possible. This is the point we have to understand when we talk about how many implementation projects we have to create. For now, just we discussed and we have seen in the system how to enable offerings and options. So in tomorrow's session, we will proceed with implementation project creation. And we will, after creating implementation project, we will discuss the benefits of implementation projects also. So along with that, during the implementation project, whatever the offerings and options are available, which are already enabled, those you can select into your implementation project. based on the scope of the implementation. What you are going to implement to the client, you can select into project. What you are not implementing also you can enable, no issues, but you can select what exactly you are implementing for your client into your implementation project. So that system will create the task list. System creates the task list. Task list is nothing but list of setups. Say you are creating implementation project, you selected offering called as finance and options called all these. Now for all these applications to do the implementation, you have to perform certain setups. Those setups list it will create within our project that we call as task list. System creates task list. Based on the task list, you can perform the setups. And you can update the status, you can associate the resource, which resource is working for finance or else which consultant is working for payables, and what is the progress of the setups. Are they working on the project? Are they not yet started project? Or setups are in progress, are completed? All these tracking we can do. This all we will see in the tomorrow session. Okay, maybe today and tomorrow. Okay, till tomorrow we may not run the session up to 9:30 exactly. So since these are initial classes, so after tomorrow session, like whatever the session we are going to have, we will spend enough time as we scheduled. So we'll start sharp 8, we'll run till 9:30. That's how we can plan and we can run. Since these are initial classes, we are not running the session full length. Okay, so this is what you can notice. Maybe after tomorrow session, the next session what we are going to have, we are going to spend exactly 1 hour 30 minutes for our class. And I'll send the meeting link also before 10 minutes. We can start the session sharp 8 and we can end by 9:30, whatever we planned. So that's all for today. If you have any questions, please stay back. We will discuss any sort of questions about this course or whatever we discussed in the past 3 classes, including today's session, total 3 classes. So if you have any questions, we can discuss and we can sort out. So that's all for today. Thank you all. See you tomorrow. If you have any questions, please stay back. Thank you. Now, any questions from anyone, please?
So what are the modules will be covered, Lakshman, in this course content?
Okay, that we discussed in the first day.
Yeah,
itself.
yeah.
Maybe you were not part of it, not sure. So when you talk about modules, these are the modules we are going to cover. These are the primary applications. From finance, these 5 applications we call as key are primary applications. We will be focusing on that. Along with that, we will see how to set up fusion expense, how to create expense reports, how to set approvals, how to, once it's approved, how to create invoice based on expense reports, how the tax can be calculated by using the fusion tax, how to configure the tax wherever it is applicable. And these are the supporting applications when you implement finance or any other application. This is for configure approval purpose, BPM. This is for configuration purpose, any application. The IDM, OM both are same for security point of user creation, roles, assignments. So this is not a module. This is a concept which you have to understand thoroughly. You have to get more clarity that will decide your experience, how you are strong in the finance applications. And when we are going to learn this financials application, so you should aware basics of SCM also if you are going to work as a consultant with 4, 5, 6 years of experience. If you are going to work as an experienced consultant, definitely this applications basic knowledge also is required. That is the reason our primary focus would be finance. And when we are working as a finance consultant with 4, 5, 6 years of experience, what level of supply chain management applications knowledge we should have, that I'm going to cover in our classes. So along with this, if you learn just product, that is not enough. You have to be okay with the real time also. For the real time, by covering all this, what is the end-to-end real-time implementation project process, how support project cycle, how the support process can be handled, what would be our role and what are the team members, how the interactions can be established with the business users or client, and various documents, what you prepare, or various type of projects, what we do, and what are the methodologies we use as a part of implementation, and rest these points also. By covering all these, I'm going to share 15 hours recorded videos, which I generated. Those are very, very clear. So product you can learn through this live classes. The real-time related, the detailed explanation already given, the document, that recorded videos you will get for the duration of 15 hours. You can play and you can understand. If you have any questions, I would be available. We can connect and we can discuss on this content also. This is all about our course. And the target of course is, who is attending this course, after completing this course, they should be able to crack the interview. After cracking the interview, you should be able to survive in the job. With the target, we designed this course, not to showcase something. This is a payables, this is a receivable, this is simply you can do this, that, and no. So by considering these points, okay, the target is getting job, and again, not with others' support, you should be able to clear your interview on finance. See, I'm not encouraging somebody to go with some fake experience, and all. Most of the people, after doing the courses, they go with some experience. They put 3, 4, 5 years of experience, they are trying and they are getting the jobs. In fact, even as many people knows, companies also knows very well. They act as, yeah, we know you are genuine, and candidate acts, yes, I'm genuine, you are true. That is the act happens, reality. So companies also taking the candidates, even they are not experienced. If they are okay with product skill, if they are good with the product knowledge, if they can handle the task what they are giving, they don't need more than that. They don't need your great qualifications. They don't need your great so-and-so skills. Basic thing what they need is, if they are taking you as a Oracle Fusion Finance consultant, you should be thorough with this product. What we are going to learn, that is more than enough. What companies are expecting to take as a finance functional consultant, that level of knowledge we are going to share through these classes. So this is all about this course.
Thank you,
Okay.
Lakshmi.
Yeah, thanks. Any other questions?
Lakshmi sir, good morning. Lakshmi sir, good morning. Fayaz here.
Yeah, Faiz, please.
Regarding the implementation project, even during the training or post completion, apart from the 15 hours video, so do we have any real-time implementation option with real client?
See, real client means simple. Once you go through this session, you can do implementation, you can understand 100 clients requirements, and you can design the solution. This point you have to understand. Okay. Once you understand, you ask this question. If something is left, I will tell you. Okay.
Yeah.
I'll complete, when you complete enterprise structure in the Fusion application, you can come to know what is real time, how that it will become real time. Okay. Still something is pending, let me.
Yeah, sure, sir. Thank you so much.
You will come to know, nothing is going to be left. Okay. You will come to know everything, where you have to be strong, how you have to be strong, what you should know, everything you will come to know. That's how we design this. Yeah. See,
sure.
let me tell you one thing. You are planning to learn this course. Many people are not really sure what they have to learn. Yes or no?
Yes, yeah, agree.
Yeah. Many people may know what is the good course to do. Maybe somebody referred, maybe their brother or sister or friend or someone else, colleague. Or they might have heard, hey, somebody did so-and-so course, they got the job, now they are getting very handsome package. That may be the news. So I can run this course within 1 month with the same title, same list, whatever I'm showing, I can complete. But how I'm going to help you, that is not enough for you. If I take the payables, I have to explain everything in the proper way. Whatever the setups I'm doing, I have to explain what is the meaning of it. Whatever the transaction I'm creating, I have to explain what points need to be considered. The accounting. The proper way you have to learn the depth of learning also very important. Payables, I may take, say for example, 10 classes, or else I can complete payables with the 5 classes also. So that is very important. What level of knowledge you are getting. Same course, Oracle Fusion Financials, one candidate can do that course within 1 month, other candidate may do the course in 3 months. But how much they are learning, the course curriculum is very important. Somebody can run the same course with 50% course curriculum which I am running. That is also Oracle Fusion Finance course. That is really cheating. You are putting the title, you are completing everything, what the learner is getting, not even 50%. How they can get the job? Right? When you are learning, you think whatever somebody is teaching, that is only the course. So we included Max, which really get benefited you, and once you to get the job, and after getting the job also, this will help you in all the ways. That's how we designed the course. Okay, you don't know what you have to learn, but I know very well. I've been into this from more than 15 years, around 16 years of experience I have. So if somebody is going to work on any kind of project, what skill set will support them, I know better than anyone else from the people who are learning. So that's how accordingly I designed this course. So you no need to worry about something is included and all. Even I'll walk through maybe in the next session with the course curriculum. I was supposed to take you through the course curriculum. So I think it was missing. I'll just walk through the course curriculum in the next session. Yep. So you will get what you need. What you get is to get the job and to survive the job. This is what you are going to get. That's it.
Totally with you. Thank you so much.
Yeah, thanks. Yeah, please.
I think you also included some more parts into your course curriculum, like
No. See, one thing. See, this is summary level. Okay, this is summary level. Course curriculum, it talks more detail level. Whatever you have, you will get. Whatever you see in the course curriculum, you will get everything. If possible, beyond that, if something is available and possible, definitely I'll cover.
And subledger accounting, is it part of?
There. I mentioned in the course curriculum, subledger accounting method is there in all these applications.
Okay.
Yeah, that is one of the concept that I will cover as a part of payables itself, so that you can understand.
Okay.
Hardly one session you need for that. Okay, it talks about when you create supplier invoice, how accounting should be generated. When you create payment, how accounting should be created. You don't need to worry about accounting. You may not be from accounting background. Don't worry. Our system has accounting background. It takes care. Yeah, that is possible with the subledger accounting method. Whatever you mentioned, that is the resource in the system to take care of accounting for any application, any transaction.
Okay.
Yeah, we'll cover everything. We'll cover you what you need. Definitely you get it. That will help in all the ways. Yeah. So any other questions, let me know. If no questions, we can wind up for today. We'll connect tomorrow, same time.